troops were deployed to West Papua, and also now we've seen the government officials, ministers, and everyone coming out and condemning what's actually happening in West Papua, and also they start they realize that the world is watching first of all, and they just realize the gravity or the magnitude of the event, and that's when they start coming out, and they start pointing fingers and blaming people. But that's going to be part of what we see in our next. They have started blaming people, and some people who is not in West Papua. So, like for example, one of the members of the Indonesian Parliament or people representing the council says this has been set up for Benny is the mastermind. Benny Benny is mastermind behind, but he has came out I think a couple of days ago or a week ago saying that has nothing to do with what he said. It's people power in West Papua, and regardless of the government of Indonesia like it or not, it's going to happen, and it's been happening since the 15th of August, and it's been a little more than 2 weeks now, and so we'll just stay tuned, and we'll come back after a quick break, and to Edwin, where I can see you on our Instagram, you joined, and also you gave your thumbs up. But I'm just wondering where you are. We'll be right back.
Subscribe to your award-winning independent community radio, bringing you coverage of community issues and events.
Ya, sekitar 3 orang sekarang ada yang nonton. That's good. Ada 3 orang.
We're streaming live from the studio 2 for Voice of West Papua and 3CR Community Radio. We're discussing about the current news that is happening in West Papua. So stay tuned for more. You can check the 3CR Facebook page, and you can go to www.3cr.org.au to listen to it live. That's me and Joe over here and Elia on the phone.
Today, call 9419-8377 now.
Welcome back. You're still listening to the Voice of West Papua, and here with me, Joe, Ian, and also Elia helping us with our live streaming. And yes, and also not forgetting Erwin joining us on Instagram, actually. And yes, thank you for joining us, Erwin. 4 Australians who allegedly took part in a pro-independence demonstration in West Papua were being deported from Indonesia by Indonesian immigration have said. The 4 Australians have been deported via Bali after they were detained during a protest in Sorong, West Papua's largest city, on Tuesday. The arrest came amid weeks of escalating protests and violence in Indonesia. People have been banned demonstrating speeches promoting separatism, and about 6,000 police and military personnel have been flown in. People have arrested also 28 people for the damage and banning of properties, violence and provocation and shootings. Papua has been wrecked by most serious civil unrest in years over perceived racial ethnic discrimination. Some protesters have also been demanding referendum on independence, on something the government has ruled out. The Papuan police chief ruled Alberta they issued 6 notices over weekend, which include the ban on demonstration and the list of criminal charges that would be brought against violators, as reported by Antara News. Yes, that was another report of a similar, similar situation, or similar, a related story actually from Jayapura. And what happened was there was 4 Australians that was involved in the protest in Sorong actually. You're not sure who were they what they went there for. They may have been just a tourist, but yeah, just some people who are traveling travelers. But yeah, look, it's amazing to see them, like they have no fear of what's going to happen, the repercussion of what's going to happen to them, and you can see they were in the midst of the West Papuan people protesting, and also yeah, not fearing what's going to happen to them, and they took part in that, and they that really that should also send a message to some of us, especially West Papuans, especially those of us who are living in Melbourne. If these Australians, yeah, they're our white friends, if they can be part of the movement of the demonstration in Sorong, West Papua, fully guided by the military, surely we can do it. We can be part of the same thing here, should it be organized. So, yeah, just a great respect, commend them, and that's a story from Sorong, and yeah, what do you think about the boldness and bravery of being part of that? Ian?
Oh, well, yeah, I applaud that. But again, one thing that I want to not clarify, but just to for all the listeners that not that the Indonesian are playing a blame game,
yeah,
that they're pointing fingers at several people or organizations or groups, and this is we've seen it happen to the to Benny Wenda, how manipulative the media are towards him, and saying that he's the mastermind. With these four Australians that were captured in West Papua, just simply probably because there were tourists there, and when they see something happening, it's just the instinct to go and investigate a little bit, and now they are being deported back to Australia. I think there will be I forget the word, but repercussion from this incident, that how manipulative the media is, and they will be using this incident to the benefit, to Indonesian benefit. So it's one thing that we want people to understand as well is that what's the current situation that's happening in West Papua, and how manipulative the government and the media can be, because the government officials actually own some of the big media outlets and media corps in Indonesia, and they can turn the story just easily. And again, one of the things that I've got a friend on Twitter, and she was saying, it's actually Veronica Coleman, the lawyer for the West Papuan human rights lawyer. She was saying that the core problem that started all this mass demonstration all across West Papua is because of the discrimination, and if the Indonesian government thinking that the mastermind behind this are people from the overseas, maybe the Australian government or Benny Wenda, it's a form of discrimination, because they think that the West Papuan cannot organize themselves to freely express themselves on the streets. So that's something that she was saying, and I really agree with that. By not looking down on West Papuan, that they're not really they're primitive. That's pretty much the concept mind of some of the Indonesian people and the Indonesian government, mostly the Indonesian government, by thinking that the West Papuan are primitive. The answer to that primitive lifestyle is to bring more development, and they really regard all these the human rights violation, the history of the integration of the West Papuan and accession, and Freeport. Also, one thing that I remember, one of the it was also a presenter in he's got a show here in Tricia, Dr. Joe Collins. I think he made a point that there was Papuans fight. It's not only against the Indonesian government and the system, but it's against all the multi corporate companies. So Freeport and BP, BP. So we are fighting against something that it's really hard to beat. But the West Papuan, in their hearts, in their spirit, they believe that they can win, because that's they're showing it for these past few weeks, or already fortnight now, standing up against the government. And when West Papuan are really angry, they burn down. They're not burning down, the civil houses, the public houses. They're actually burn down the official building, the government official building, because that's the symbol of power that tortured the West Papuans, and that's why they burn it down. So I think power to the people. And when you say about these 4 Australians giving motivation, that if they're willing to show their spirit against 6,000 Indonesian troops that are now being sent to West Papua, they don't really care if they're being deported or detained. They still go out and mingle with the people of West Papua and support their demanding their rights. That's, I agree. It's something that also motivates me, that if someone can do that, we all have to follow on that footstep. But also looking at West Papua now, taking the time, spend everything to go and sit on the streets and to give the to express the belief, the political rights and everything. So yeah, it's a story that behind all this conflict and the chaos that is happening, there are something that you can take, something positive that you can take from this. And these 4 Australians, it's like you said, it's quite motivational. But also not to forget that the Indonesians are now manipulating the stories by pointing fingers at the Australians or the England, the British government, that they are mastermind behind the uprising in West Papua. But in reality, the West Papuan are now fed up with what's happening in there. The ignorance that the government is showing. That's why they are now taking it to the streets and rebelling pretty much.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Ian. And listeners, please stay tuned, and we'll be back after a short break. Oh, yeah? What are they?
Come on, come in.
The best. Bro, 17 people is watching already.
Oh.
So I didn't know this was from the Voice of West Papua.
I was going live on my Instagram, I changed it.
Bro, I actually start commenting here, brother. But it's good. So I can actually comment. That's pretty good. There's some brother here from Bisemat Abu Gau.
Jeffrey watching.
Jeffrey is watching. Hey Jeffrey, what's up, my brother? How are ya? How are you, mate?
Brother.
There's a brother from Bisemat Abu Gau.
Shout out.
Brother Jimmy. Thank you, brother Jimmy. And brother Walilo Taste. Thank you, my brother. Thank you. Thank you. One love. Free West Papua. Hey, watch from Timor-Leste. Atoi Gusmao.
Atoi Gusmao?
Huh?
Gusmao?
Yeah, Gusmao.
Shout out.
Shout out to Timor-Leste. Shout out.
No, 3:30. 3:30.
Shanti Shali, Free West Papua. Thank you, sister.
Thursday, 3 to 3:30. Kita belum ya?
Thank you. God bless you too. God bless you too, brother. Be semangat.
Okay. Tony Creedon. Kasih syarat ke dia.
Oh, listening from Tasmania. Welcome.
Rose Titan.
Welcome, my brother. Welcome. Huh? We know we are one people, one soul. Colonial Indonesia, not our family, but PNG and West Papua is one people, one soul, and one island.
True.
Thank you, Walilo. Sorong to Samarai. Yes. Yes, brother. Greetings, Tasmania.
Kita taruh di sini. Oh, terima kasih. Taruh di sini. Ini seperti ini. Ini aja atau dari sini. That's okay. Tony Creedon, saya kasih syarat. Oh, sorry.
Rose Turtle Earthler is watching. Hey. Thank you. Shout out to Tasmania. This is live from Facebook. Thank you, States.
Welcome back. You are still listening to the voice of West Papua on Tricia Community Radio on 855 AM on your dial, streaming live on www.tricia.org.au. Also live on Voice of West Papua Facebook page. So go and visit. The song you were listening before, it's kind of like a shout out to my friend from the show Come On Come In, and it's airing every Thursday from 3 to 3:30. Shout out to Tony, and yeah, people to come and listen to the show. It's every Thursday from 3 o'clock until 3:30. So yeah.
Oh yeah, thanks Ian, and you're welcome back. And you're still listening to the voice of West Papua, and the time is 16 minutes past 7, actually. Yep, there's a report coming out of Indonesia, the Jakarta Globe report, that the Indonesian police said they have been investigating possible foreign involvement in the violent protests in Papua, which started since the second week of August. The protesters were triggered by a series of racist incidents against students from Papua Island and the island of Java, including in Surabaya, the capital city of East Java. And they were bringing West Papuan students angry, and they called them monkeys, and that actually triggered the uprising in West Papua. And the chief police of the Republic of Indonesia says they are investigating these groups' links to an international network. That's the statement that was made by the police chief. And also the President Jokowi has ordered to investigate the act of racism against the West Papuan students. And this has happened before, and they're constantly being called monkey and all kinds of racial vilification and discriminating acts against West Papuan students. And they've also, over the past few weeks, they've actually cut off the internet connection, and so there was no connection, and telecommunication like telephone and internet service, and that is why the getting stories out from West Papua was a bit difficult, and now they have like it looks like they're hitting the dead end. They're hitting the brick wall and not knowing what is actually happening, how to really tackle, how to overcome the series of protests and series of resistance from the indigenous West Papuans, and this has actually caused them to be alarmed. As I said earlier, they didn't take it seriously. They didn't take it. They didn't take the West Papua seriously at first, but then they realized that when the gravity, the gravity of the situation, when it has come to a state where there are some people killed, and yes, including as we hear from the report, SBS report, like a kid as young as 9 was shot, and that's actually kind of will trigger them to come out looking for excuses, and even over the past few days, in the past few days, I've read a story of a report. They have allegedly found a fingerprint of a foreign national in Indonesia, and also they're investigating foreign involvement, and we don't know actually what's happening, but suppose we are to yes, I suppose we are to project or to really guess what is it that they're trying to do. Do we really have foreign involvement in the struggle of West Papua? That's actually referring to what happened in West Papua over the last 2 weeks. Is there like a foreign influence?
Yeah, like I said before, that's what the government is saying, that there's a foreign involvement in all this oppression in West Papua. But like Veronica has said before, that thinking that the West Papuan cannot organize themselves to bring up an uprising is a form of discrimination too, because the West Papuan are doing this. They've been going on the street to voice out their concern, what they believe, the political rights and the freedom of expression, and to like I said before, the government is trying to divert the whole situation, the story behind all this, into this is between the Indonesian and the foreign governments. But in reality, is that the West Papuan is fed up with what's happening in their land, and it caused all this uprising. So for me, what the government is doing now is trying to divert the whole story. And what about the internet connection that they've been shut down? I think the Wiranto has come out and said that they're doing that because there's a lot of hoax stories on the internet. That's why the government is shutting down the whole internet in West Papua, and by the way, that's in breach of the freedom of expression, people's right to freedom of expression.
Yeah.
And now just recently, the Minister for Communication has come out, and he said that someone actually cut the line. That's really a bizarre story.
Yeah.
And even after the government admitted that they shut down intentionally to stop all the hoax stories. So what you say is true. The government is now trying to figure out what's the best way to approach the West Papuan, and the best thing they can think of is to manipulate the stories. And that's why when you read at some of the Indonesian medias, the story has already changed. When the West Papuan are calling for freedom, I've been following the stories, and when the West Papuan going out, they're not calling for nothing else. They call for a referendum and full freedom, and that has been the answer that the West Papuan want to get from the Indonesia, and when they don't get that, there will still be a lot of uprising, and with the current news that the non-Papuan are now taking it to themselves. They are now going into house to house and to ask whether people get involved in the demonstration or not. It's now the whole story is now also diverting to West Papuan against the non-West Papuans, and the police. The police are not trying to stop these kind of things, but they let it go. So it's really a something that's really alarmed. It's an emergency state. I think the government should call it an emergency.
I believe so. I do agree with that. And looking at this a group of civil, it's not really civil, but it's a radical militia that's backed by I think it's actually formed and backed by the military itself. And we are looking at the next chapter of what happened in East Timor 20 years ago, as Benny Wender said. And if the Indonesian government is, we hope that they take this situation seriously and address what is really the core of the issue, and not bitching about the bush and saying West Papuans want development and infrastructure and everything. Yes, West Papuans need that, but how can we enjoy these development and infrastructure with under suppression without being free? So we do need that, but of course the first thing West Papuans want is for Indonesia to acknowledge their existence, their political status, their political status, that West Papua, they are ethnically and racially different from West Papua, from Indonesia. They are of Melanesian, they are of Pacific Island and of Melanesian race, and they have nothing, no ties, nothing whatsoever with the Indonesian. So that should have been addressed. And also, what's very important is to right the wrong. Actually, the act of what they call act of free choice there was no choice back then, because just a handful of people were handpicked by the authorities to vote for integration, vote against the independence of West Papua. So dialogue would be one of the best way. But as we've seen, Indonesia is not open, does not accept the dialogue between the third party. But that's what West Papua wants, and if they want the world to see them as a fair country, that's what should have happened. That's what should happen, and that's what we should be looking at. Otherwise, people will still get killed, and I think indeed it's what they plan as one of the favorite one of your favorite quote Ian, you always use that was said by one of the army general back in the 1960s, that the Indonesians, they're not interested in West Papuans. They are only interested with the land of West Papua. So that's.
And I think the call out that Mr. Benny Wenda gave, and he wants the Australian government to take a bigger role. I think we need to echo that to all the listeners out there, that there's little things that you can do to help the West Papuan. The West Papuan, we want full freedom, referendum as a highest mechanism at the democracy. But one thing that we can do now, the focus is now to bring West Papua into a decolonization list, and non-government territory in West Papua. So you can do that. There's a petition going around on the internet. You can see decolonization West Papua, and you can sign on that. We're going to hand it into the Parliament next week, and we want everyone's support on this. And again, we're calling out for the Australians to take a bigger role, because most of the Pacific countries are now standing with the West Papuan people to ask for the West Papuan right to self-determination. And Australia and New Zealand is actually the only two that is still really hard to convince. We're trying really hard to convince, but that's what we're asking them to take a bigger role on this and promoting the West Papuan self-determination rights.
Right, thank you. And unfortunately, the time has caught up with us. So that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you very much, all listeners, for tuning in on live streaming, Instagram, and also Facebook live streaming. Please stay tuned for the Nile show that's coming up next. And from us in the studio, bye for now.
We are one big Melanesian family. We're gonna give up for you. Papua, Merdeka! Free West Papua, free West Papua, free West Papua. We need our rights back. We want our lands back. Free West Papua, free West Papua, free West Papua. Bukan chat dengan orang kan?
Ew. Tidak apa tu?
That's good.
All right, that's good. Hello.
Can you make a change?